Greetings and welcome to WANA Live, the reading series of the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia. I'm your host, Damian Dressick. This is your other host,
Christina Fasonic. How are you this evening, Damian?
I am well, thank you. I've been trying to get some writing done, trying to get some submitting done, hoping to be productive now that the semester has mercifully come to a close.
I took a nap. So there you go. A much deserved one. Anyway, so tonight we have
What do we have tonight?
We have a new writer this evening, and let me tell you a little bit about him. Kelly McQuain is a writer and a visual artist who teaches at Community College of Philadelphia. He is the author of Scrape the Velvet from Your Antlers, a poetry collection chosen by Texas Review Press for the Southern Breakthrough Award. He has also authored 2 chapbooks, Velvet Rodeo, which won the Bloom Chapbook Poetry Prize, and Antlers, I'm sensing a theme, chosen for the editor's series at Seven Kitchens Press. His prose, poetry, and illustrations have appeared in The Pinch, American Poetry Review, Painted Bride Quarterly, the Philadelphia Inquirer, Spunk, Kestrel, and Cleaver. Other honors include poet Dorianne Laux' collection of his poem, Ruby on Fire for Limp Wrist Magazine, annual Glitter Bomb Award, 2 fellowships from the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts, a Lambda Literary Fellowship, and selection as a Tennessee Williams Scholar by the Sewanee Writers Workshop.
Let's bring him out here.
Yeah, let's hear more about this author.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
How are you tonight?
I'm good. How about yourself?
We're doing well. You've quite the bio there. You're doing all sorts of cool stuff.
And that was a truncated version of his bio.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I like to do a lot of different things. I find that the visual art inspires the written art and vice versa.
I'm going to ask you about that later.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So tonight you'll be reading from your new collection of poetry, right?
Yes.
Yes. And we were talking before, you were originally from Elkins, West Virginia, right? And was this book inspired by the time you spent there, or?
Very much so. Yes. Many of the poems are set in West Virginia, and they deal with growing up there and coming out as a young gay man in the 1980s. But then some of the poems are also set in Philadelphia, where I now live and teach. And also some of them are inspired from travels abroad. So the book walks around a lot of territory. And I think it casts me as something of a Philly Billy. Part hillbilly, part Philadelphian Philly Billy. And there aren't very many of us.
Well, even though there might be few Philly Billies, there are plenty of ex-Appalachians out there in the world that have left Appalachia and have put their, placed their home somewhere else in Detroit or Akron or other cities. So I'm really looking forward to this reading. Ever since you talked to me about your book, I really look forward to hearing some poems from it.
All right, we're going to disappear and we're going to let you get to it.
Yes, we'll be back.
Okay. Well, tonight I'm going to read from this book, Scrape the Velvet from Your Antlers, which just came out from Texas Review Press. It was selected for the Southern Breakthrough Award for West Virginia. Texas Review Press does a series of books for each of the southern states. And this is the West Virginia one that they selected it just came out a month or 2 ago. So I'm going to read the title poem, naturally called Scrape the Velvet from Your Antlers. As you take the hill takes you, raking you and your siblings into a grassy sway of beetles and spiders moving, and the day's hot ricochet of bluebottle flies and bees gone crazy in their looping. Your brother and sister run to catch the horizon. You wade slowly through the lashing, alive with combustion, eager for bursting. This hill, once a forest, has long been cut low, untilled, rock-strewn, stubbled with stubborn flowers, soapwort, Queen Anne's lace, whirled loosestrife, seeded scattershot, while downhill, Laundry bows a slender line, and inside a house men tune fiddles, a banjo strums, melody in the making. But you have no time for the old-timiness of old men, won't be quaintly close-pinned. You are Joe Pye weed and yarrow root, resolute with purpose, pinioned for sky. Why then is your skin nothing but cockleburrs? Who fiddled with you, rewired deference into difference? What if you never meet the person you are meant to be? The future is a cocked gun, pretty but peacock mean. And you are devil's paintbrush, a blister of orange red and velvet mead. You've yet to steady into friends who will ride life's curves with you, yet to meet men come to wreck you. There is only the splintered heart of now. This house, this hill, a horizon spurned as you cast your gaze down road past trailers to a line of pines gloating their evergreen promise of shade. What kneels to drink in that dark? What hooved thing? Some player of panpipes moving? A preacher might call this moment choosing. Only 9, and already you've packed up your belonging. Every out-of-bound path, boyhood's sweet undoing. This hill beneath your feet is cracked, as aching as an insect's rasp. When a tune ignites from the house, you feel its lull. It's not quite yet. Imagine a table where comfort food lies spread. But what if you'd rather be the hunger than a child spoon-fed? A lick of wind on nape of neck, a secret transmission that coils and threads as grasshoppers leap away like longing. Someday soon you'll understand how music marks a mating move, how four-wing against notch leg strums the same tune teenage boys need into the pockets of fraying jeans as they bum for smokes and try their luck among trucks purring in parking lots. Their plea, unravel me, snap me free of all ties, show me answers apart from lies. But where to learn of this authentic self? Not on this hill, not in that house. Something calls you somewhere else. Okay, I think I'm going to follow that up with a poem about my father called Architect. And I use that term with him tongue in cheek, but my father was very much a jack of all trades. Architect. My father's name for me was shit for brains, those long days we spent clearing the hillside of brush, the whine of his chainsaw in the late autumn cold, my arms numb from stacking wood in the truck. I was distracted, never moved quick enough, wishing the day would fall aside like dead leaves, eager to return home come dark, to a home that wasn't a home, not really, but another of my father's make-do inventions, a cinder block building he built for his auction business, but moved us into when he lost the house we rented. Sign painter, antique dealer, real estate salesman, auctioneer, and now an architect. My father's old selfhoods constantly sputtered into embers. I was less a son than a reluctant assistant to a poor man magician robbing Peter to pay Paul for each new venture. I learned lessons in painting and polishing junk. I made the honor roll in teenage resentment. I learned what I did and didn't want to become, slapped together like the walls of our little apartment, chipboard thin when what I wanted was to keep everyone out, picture a different kind of life. In my bedroom, there wasn't even a window. But then my father bought this little half-cleared lot up a winding dirt road holler, the old family farm, sold off piecemeal by an uncle. But couldn't Dad, the promise now of our first good family home, an overdue correction, but couldn't Dad see I'd be off at college before the foundation he poured cemented? I watched him stay up late over stubborn blueprints, told him River Rock siding was a good idea, but windows needed to open. It took years, but he laid the gas and water lines himself, managed the house's framing and the laying of its roof. Then cancer. A lifetime of smoking and cleaning paint from his hands with turpentine-soaked rags. He died in the temporary cinderblock apartment, left the world with work undone. My father, the architect, drew impossible blueprints. This shit for brains somehow finds a way to follow. All the things I want to finish but don't. They keep me up these late night hours. I'm still clearing brush out of my head up that hollow, chainsaw teeth biting into soft pulp. I want leaves and branches to rise back to their trees, but time won't reverse. It only devours. My father stands in the failing light, yells at me to hurry up. And then the last poem I'm going to read also has my father in it, but I think it's a little more upbeat. And this poem is called Dolly, and it appears in an anthology called Let Me Say This, which is a Dolly Parton poetry anthology. Yes, there is such a thing, and it's long been overdue. And this is the poem that I wrote that appears in it. Dolly. At 10, even this boy wanted to have them. What older girls in training bras had taken to padding, we manufactured with balloons swelling our t-shirts as we sang, my younger sister and I, to Dolly Parton on the car radio, the slosh of automated car wash rollers slapping against roof and window, and Daddy for once not yelling at our backseat performance. I was falling in love with Dolly, that hillbilly Valkyrie, her platinum hairdo a spun sugar miracle, her hummingbird voice a God-given weapon against heartache, life's mistakes, hard scrabble lessons about getting the things we weren't getting but wanted. Dolly, the doll I could never have, her songs hungry and angry and funny, a golden-throated spiritual connection to the busty Daisy May hidden inside me. My Dolly Pop squeaked as I rubbed their knotted nipples. The car washes soapy water and brushes almost through. And Dolly still singing, "Here you come again," as Daddy strummed the steering wheel and lit a cigarette, while Dolly offered a quick wink, all glitter and glue, with eyes that could tell if a man was a happy drunk, a sad or mad one, and me, a balloon-breasted boy, still singing for a tender bosom to lay his head upon. Thank you.
Oh, wow. I absolutely love this work. And I remember when Let Me Say This, the collection came out, and I saw some of my friends were in that collection too, and thinking, yeah, exactly what you said. Yes, it's about time. This is so long overdue. What a wonderful poem that was. I really loved it.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's fantastic.
Yes. Yeah, I found out about that anthology from Dustin Brookshire, one of the two editors of it. He's a great guy, good poet, living down in Florida.
Yeah, it's very, very good. I've seen some other work from it, and it's quite good.
So you mentioned before the connection between the visual arts and the written in your writing. Could you talk a little bit about that, Kelly?
Well, they intersect in different ways. One of the ways that they work for me is that when I'm stuck in one medium, I can recharge in the other and come back to the writing or the painting with fresh eyes. But also, sometimes they overlap. Not so much poems, but I have done some graphic memoirs that are illustrated that have to do with poetics, but they're more essay-driven than poem-driven. But I do think that I am starting to work my way a little more towards things like poetry comics and the interplay of text and visual art. With my painting, I am doing a lot of layering. One of the things I grew up with and I didn't know was part of me till adulthood was I have some ADD issues, and I was always a good student, so it was disguised pretty well and never diagnosed in school. But I was also the one who was always looking out the window unless there was something really engaging me. And so I've been trying in, especially my visual work, but I think also in the poetry as well, trying to replicate in a way the way that sensory information comes to me in that sense, because it's sort of like listening to 3 radio stations at once. They're overlapping, and you're hearing snippets of this and that, and so there are 3 separate texts, but then there's kind of a meta text overlapping it all of the combination of different ideas. And I often find myself floating in that space, both when I'm trying to write a poem and also when I'm trying to do a painting. So that overlapping of messages and space and states is something I'm trying to explore.
Very cool. Very cool. That's a great way to think about it. I'm going to take that home. That's really good.
So I have to tell you, I really love so many of the ways that you put things, like pack up your belonging. That hit me like, I thought, as somebody who, grew up in West Virginia, I didn't feel like maybe I fit with the people that I grew up with. And I was always like thinking about belonging and how I didn't belong here, and leaving to go off to graduate school, even though it was still in Appalachia, but it was graduate school, and packing up my belonging and finding all these people. Oh, where have you been, everybody? I really love that. And the future is a cocked gun. The splintered heart of now. I mean, those are just some incredible turns of phrase that evoke like really rich imagery. And when you said, as you take the hill takes you, what I thought of instantly was my dad when we would go on drives out in the country, and he would speed up when he knew that we were coming to a dip in the road just to make everybody nauseated. And I was thinking
that's supposed to be exciting, Christina.
Well, not if you get motion sickness. It wasn't. But we all laughed anyway. But I kept thinking about those things as I was listening, and I just love how on point and compact your language is, and it allowed it to, for me to unpack your belonging as I was listening.
I think that something that you said made me think that, people from West Virginia, we idolize the mountaineer, right? And for me, when I picture the mountaineer, it's like, a guy in a raccoon cap and a gun and, fringed suede leggings and stuff, a very rugged individual type. And I think that for some of us, that sense of individualism manifests itself as sort of a sense of outcast or not belonging or being on the periphery. I know I felt very much like that when I was a teenager, because it was not a safe place to come out gay in 1985 in Elkins, West Virginia. That was not done. So I've always felt like this, not always belonging here and not always belonging there. So what you're saying resonates with me in terms of, trying to find your tribe and trying to make your peace with home.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one thing that I think is a current in all of Appalachian literature, either from the north, the south, the middle, everywhere, is this love-hate relationship with where we're from. And, how much of that is based on actually where we're from, and how much of it is based on the stereotypes that we have to deal with because of where we're from. I mean, what is that very complicated relation? How do you suss out like our lived reality with the reality we have to live with because of those stereotypes?
Well, it does rankle me sometimes when, people make hillbilly cracks and stuff like that. I've heard my fair share of them. I'm sure you have too.
Yeah.
That's still kind of an acceptable kind of stereotype to mock. But I do think there are bigger concerns. I think what bothers me most about West Virginia is how exploited I feel the state is.
Yeah.
That people come there and take from the state its natural resources and things, and don't leave much behind, don't invest much there.
Well, they leave their
that
trash
bothers me.
behind. They leave their trash in the form of, holes in the earth and where mountains used to be, and
Right.
all the frack fluid and frack waste. So they leave plenty behind, but it's all
Nothing good.
toxic.
Yeah, toxic. But one positive thing that I carry with me from West Virginia is I think I have a strong sense of place. I have a real love for the wilderness. I don't go camping and stuff very often, but I like to be out in the woods. I like to garden a lot. Right now, I have a very small South Philadelphia backyard, not very big at all, but I have a lot of container plants, and I'm fighting a squirrel to clean them up. It's like Bill Murray in Caddyshack, but instead of a gopher, it's a squirrel in my case. But he's teaching me patience, that squirrel.
I read about you in the Inquirer, Kelly. I'll know.
Yeah, you'll know. Okay.
Oh, this was wonderful, and this collection sounds like it's fantastic. I absolutely love your use of language. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
So thanks for sharing with us. And we do have some comments. It's all from a friend of the show, Bonnie Proudfoot, who has a great book called Goshen Road, a novel that takes place here in West Virginia. And she says she loved that line too. As you take the hill takes you. Drew impossible blueprints, and she talks about her voice as a weapon. So Bonnie always has a lot of insightful things that she pulls out of people's work. So
thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah, it's great. Go ahead, Damien.
Oh, I have to say, Kelly, I really enjoyed the work that you did with regard to your father and the wood chopping. I as somebody who spent every summer doing that, the entire summer from like 12 to 17, it brought back some memories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my father. I worked for my father in his auction business during my teen years, and he was the best and worst boss I ever had. No, he was best because he was my dad, of course. But I don't really recommend working for your dad when
it
you're
sounds
a
like it's a little bit out of Mosquito Coast.
Yes, something like that. But I do find that very much some of the things that he dealt with in his life, I see floating up in my own life as I age, and so there's that kind of layering of how he was perceived by the world, how I perceived him as a child, and the way I now perceive myself and see some of the traits that he had manifest. I find that interesting. And I think that's why I write about him a lot, because I miss him, and it's a way of reclaiming him.
And getting to know yourself better through
True.
that reflection as well. Yeah, that's really powerful.
All right, so can we see the book one more time?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. And I will just say this is one of my paintings that I did for the cover of the book.
That's awesome.
I don't know how representative it is of all my work, but you can find more of it online if you want. And also the book just came out as an ebook yesterday, I think was the ebook publication date.
That's awesome. Fantastic. And thank you so much for joining us on the show. We really appreciate it. We're always glad to talk to Appalachians, and we've never had a Philbilly on the show as far as I know. That's fantastic. Anyways, thank you again for being on, and We'll see everybody else next week. 8
Thanks a
p.m.
lot, Kelly. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in.
Good night, everyone.